Jin-Woo knew he had to get some things done today. He let out a big yawn as he shut the fridge door. One cool thing about his apartment was its location. It was super close to a huge supermarket. Jin-Woo slipped on some comfy clothes and headed out. The walk only took 10 minutes, which was awesome. Before long he arrived at the store. As soon as he stepped inside, his eyes scanned the whole place, taking it all in. Jin-Woo walked into the store, expecting it to be packed with people. But it was pretty quiet, probably because there weren't any big sales going on. He grabbed a basket and started browsing the aisles. This was nothing new for him. He had been taking care of household chores, including grocery shopping, ever since his mom got hospitalized, and he became the head of the family. As he wandered around the store, Jin-Woo thought to himself, "There's not much worth buying today." He stopped in front of a shelf, staring at some items on display. He was trying to decide what to make for dinner. Just then, he heard a friendly voice call out, "Sung, how are you doing?" Jin-Woo turned around to see who was talking to him. He had noticed that there was a hunter somewhere nearby. His high perception stat allowed him to detect these things, but he hadn't paid much attention to it, figuring the hunter was just another shopper. He didn't expect the hunter to come over and talk to him. Jin-Woo didn't think the hunter would know who he was. But then the hunter said, "Mr. Song," with a big smile on his face. It was Choel Song. Jin-Woo was super happy to see him. Choel looked surprised and happy at the same time. "I heard you were okay, but I didn't believe it, until now," he said, staring at Jin-Woo in amazement. Jin-Woo felt a little shy with Choel looking at him like that, so he rubbed the back of his neck. Choel explained, "I wanted to visit you sooner, but those people from the association wouldn't tell me anything. I had no idea what was going on." "You won't believe what's going on. Miss Joo-hee is super eager to talk to you too." "Really?" "Yeah, she even joined a raid last week just to see you. And that's crazy because she said she was quitting the whole hunter thing." "Last week? That's weird. Joo-hee told me that the association had organized that raid on the same day. Joo-hee started working with Dong-suk's team. Now it makes sense why we haven't heard from them in a while. They probably did try to call, but Joo-hee wasn't around to pick up." Suddenly one of Chuel's biggest questions was answered. He stared at Jin-Woo in shock. Had Sung always been this tall? Especially since he lost his leg. Chuel's eyes scanned down Jin-Woo's body and his eyes widened in surprise. "Your leg?" he asked. Jin-Woo stayed calm. "My leg was fine when I woke up," he said. "I have no idea how it healed." Chuel nodded like he understood. Weird things had been happening ever since the first gate appeared 10 years ago. Many strange and unexplainable things had occurred. So this wasn't totally surprising. Imagine being a hunter. Someone with special powers that set them apart. There were amazing healers out there who could fix just about anything. If someone was an S-rank healer, they could even mend a broken body, as long as the person was still alive. Maybe one of these super healers had helped Jin-Woo while he was unconscious. That would explain how his severed leg might have been reattached. It wouldn't be impossible after all. "You're too young to be disabled," someone said to him, trying to sound encouraging. Chio let out a huge sigh of relief, like he'd just dodged a major problem himself. Chio couldn't help but notice something weird about Chio's left arm. His shirt sleeve was flapping around like there was nothing inside it. Chio chuckled and patted his left shoulder. "Don't worry about me," he said with a grin. "Hunters get hurt during raids all the time. It's just part of the job." He said it like it was no big deal, but others didn't seem to agree. "Oh no, look," someone whispered. "I feel so bad for him," another person said softly. People walking by would glance over and see that Chill was missing. Middle-aged women and students would whisper to each other as they passed. It was probably a magic beast, right? A middle-aged man was staring at Chiyu like he was some kind of amazing discovery. Jin-Woo noticed the weird looks they were getting and asked, "Should we go somewhere else?" The meat section was packed with people and it was getting uncomfortable. Chiyu nodded in agreement. All the stares were making him feel weird. He still had more to talk about with Jin-Woo, so he said that sounds good. They decided to head to a quieter area where they could chat without being surrounded by so many people. As Chijul walked, he got a weird feeling that something wasn't quite right. Sung's footsteps were normal, but Jin-Woo's seemed really light, like he was floating across the ground. Chijul was walking right next to Jin-Woo, but for some reason it was hard to feel like he was even there. It didn't make sense. Why did Jin-Woo seem so invisible? Chijul felt a shiver run down his spine. as he thought about what would happen if they got into a fight. Even though Chijul was a strong C-rank fighter and Jin-Woo was just an E-rank, he couldn't shake the feeling that he wouldn't be able to touch him. What was wrong with him? Chijul shook his head, trying to clear the crazy thoughts out of his mind. Chol had something important to tell Jin-Woo, and he couldn't wait any longer. He stopped in a quiet spot, and Jin-Woo stopped too. Then Chol turned to face him. Before Jin-Woo could say anything, Chol bowed his head in thanks. "Thank you so much, Sung," he said. It was weird for Jin-Woo, a man about as old as his dad, was bowing down to him. Jin-Woo tried to get Cheol to look up, but he just kept talking with his head hung low. 11 people lost their lives because of me," Cheol said, his voice filled with sadness, "but 6 people are alive today because of you. I feel responsible for what happened, so I want to thank you for all of us." Every word Cheol spoke came from the heart. He really meant it. Jin-Woo could feel how genuine Mr. Song's feelings were. He felt a bit awkward too, but it didn't bother him. Instead, he kind of felt proud. But Jin-Woo knew he couldn't let an older person stand before him like this for long. "Mr. Song, it's okay. Please look up," he said, just as Jin-Woo was about to lift Mr. Song's head. A phone started ringing from inside Mr. Song's jacket pocket. He stepped away and pulled out his phone from his pocket. "Hello," he answered. His face turned serious as he listened to the person on the other end. "I understand. I'll be right there," he said before hanging up. "It looks like I have to go now," he told them, making it sound like a personal issue. But Jin-Woo had super sharp hearing, thanks to his strong perception skills. He had caught every word of the conversation. The call was actually from the Hunters Association, asking Chil for help with a nearby gate that needed attention. Chil didn't want Jin-Woo to get into trouble, so he kept a secret to himself. Jin-Woo had just gotten out of the hospital, and Chil wanted to protect him from getting hurt again. But Jin-Woo was curious and asked Chil straight out. "Was that the Hunter Association?" Chil paused, unsure of what to say. "Did you overhear everything?" he asked back. "When the association plans a big raid, they call all the nearby hunters to join in." If Chil got the call, Jin-Woo's house must have gotten it too. Jin-Woo had been waiting for this moment. A chance to battle. "I'm coming with you," he said. Chil was taken aback and started to see Jin-Woo in a new way. When they arrived at the meeting spot, they saw that police had blocked off the area. A strange gate had appeared near homes and a busy road, causing a big commotion. The streets were pretty empty, with hardly anyone around to watch what was going on. The gates that the association controlled had just shown up a few days ago, so things were still really unpredictable. Even if you got close to the gate, you wouldn't actually see any fights breaking out. Sometimes the police had to shoo away some pesky kids who were getting too curious. Then a taxi door slammed shut, with a loud clack. Jin-Woo and Chugul hopped out of the taxi and started walking towards where the other hunters were waiting. But before they got far, the police stopped them. "May I see your ID, please?" one of the officers asked. Chugul pulled out his wallet and handed over his license. "I'm Chugul Song, a C-rank hunter," he explained. "And this is my friend Chugul Song." The police officer carefully checked Chugul's face against his photo on the license, then handed it back to him. "You're clear to go," he said with a nod. "Thanks, sir," Chugul replied with a smile. "Keep up the good work." The officers waved them through, and Chugul gave them a friendly greeting before continuing on his way with Jubu. Jin-Woo walked behind Chil as they approached the gate. A woman with round glasses who worked for the association was waiting for them. She noticed the two hunters and hurried over. "Hunter Chil Song and Hunter Jin-Woo Sung, how did you guys find out about this raid?" she asked. Looking puzzled. "You didn't answer your phone," she added. Chil stepped in to explain what was going on. "He was with me when you called," I said. "Oh, really? I thought Hunter Sung was avoiding my call again," she joked. But it wasn't always funny. Jin-Woo used to do that a lot in the past. Whenever he got really hurt in a dungeon, he'd turn off his phone and hide. He was too scared to face another tough adventure. He knew he couldn't avoid the association's meetings forever. If he skipped their calls 3 times, he'd be out for good. So he'd have to go back eventually. A bitter smile spread across his face as memories of the past came flooding back. "Other hunters are already here," a voice said, breaking into his thoughts. "Why don't you go join them?" She nodded toward a small group of people. But when he looked over, he saw only 2 other hunters. It seemed like a pretty small crowd. Something big had happened, and now hardly anyone was showing up. On the way to this place, Chil told Jin-Woo that a lot of hunters had died, and some were so hurt that they decided to quit. One of those hunters was Ju. Jin-Woo looked around, but he didn't see Ju-hee anywhere. As he and Chio walked up, the other two hunters wouldn't even look at them. They seemed really embarrassed. Jin-Woo's eyes got narrow. Honestly, they should be ashamed. These two were Kim Sang-shik, who had run away from the dungeon to save his own skin, and another hunter who had pushed Jin-Woo out of the way to escape a room. Jin-Woo's friends looked super uncomfortable around him. Kim tried to break the awkward silence saying, Sung. But when Jin-Woo gave him a cold stare, Kim quickly turned away. He clammed up and left the group, sneaking a peek at Jin-Woo from afar with a confused expression. Is this really the same Jin-Woo that Sung knew? Jin-Woo's eyes were super intense. They looked like a wild animal's. Just thinking about it made him shiver, and he got goosebumps all over his arms. But then Jin-Woo calmed down and stopped giving that scary stare. Luckily Kim was smart, and noticed how Jin-Woo was looking at him. After catching Jin-Woo's eye once, Kim decided to keep his distance. Jin-Woo hoped he would stay away. Just then Jin-Woo appeared beside Jin-Woo with a big smile on his face. Sung, Jin-Woo said, clearly excited about something he saw. Jin-Woo turned his head to see what Chil is staring at. Before he could even face the other way, he heard his name, Jin-Woo. Suddenly something soft bumped into him. Ju-hee. Jin-Woo stood there, looking surprised. Ju-hee looked him up and down, trying not to cry. Are you okay? Are you hurt anywhere? She asked. Her eyes landed on his leg and grew wide with worry. Oh no, your leg. What happened to it? She kept glancing back and forth between Jin-Woo's face and his injured leg. Jin-Woo and Jo-hee were both shocked, but Jo-hee's reaction was way more obvious. Jin-Woo tried to come up with a quick excuse for his injured leg, but before he could say anything, a weird comment caught their attention. Ooh, that's hot. Sue, hot. Someone yelled. They looked over to see who was shouting, and it was some guy wearing a blue prison uniform. He was pretty far away, but his loud voice made them turn around. Jin-Woo wondered if maybe they were filming a movie or something nearby. As he watched, a man in a suit got out of a van that was parked close by. The man in the suit scolded one of the guys dressed like a prisoner. Be quiet, he said. The prisoner looked away, acting innocent. But as soon as the man turned back to the van, he snuck a wink at Ju-hee. Jin-Woo's face scrunched up in disapproval. Then 2 more men stepped out of the van, and they were all dressed alike in prisoner uniforms, with handcuffs on their wrists. It was weird. The man in the suit led the 3 prisoners over to a woman who worked at the association. She smiled warmly as they approached. You're finally here, she said. The man in the suit apologized. Traffic was a nightmare. He started signing some papers she handed him. As he did that, she turned to the group of hunters. Today these new people will join you on your mission, she announced. But there was something important about them. They're probational prisoners. The hunters looked shocked. One of them, Kim, spoke up. Wait, you want us to work with criminals? She asked. You see, when a hunter breaks the law, they have 2 options. Imagine you're in jail, but you have a choice: serve your whole sentence or cooperate with a special group to get out earlier. Most people chose the second option, and they were called probational prisoners. One employee from this group kept saying sorry over and over again. I'm really sorry, he said, bowing his head. But we're having a big problem here. We don't have enough hunters in this area. Don't worry, you're not going in alone. The association says there aren't many options right now, but you'll have some backup. A member of the surveillance team will be joining you on this mission. Kim looked at the man in the suit with a suspicious eye. A member from the surveillance team is coming too, she asked. The man nodded. Yes, that's right. The prisoners we're dealing with are all C rank, which means they're not as strong as some others. But the hunter from the surveillance team is B rank, so you'll be safe. Kim nodded, feeling a bit better. There's a saying that it takes 10 C rank hunters to take down just 1 B rank hunter. That shows just how big the difference is between these 2 ranks. Jin-Woo couldn't think of a reason to say no to a B-rank hunter who would not only lend a hand but also keep an eye on the prisoners. The team consisted of 1 B-rank hunter and 3 C-rank hunters. As Jin-Woo looked at the hunter from the surveillance team and the prisoners on probation, he got a weird feeling. Something didn't feel right. He sensed that they were hostile towards him. Was this because his perception skills were getting stronger? Jin-Woo couldn't shake off the feeling that something was off. He leaned in and whispered to Jo-hee, maybe you shouldn't come on this raid. She looked up at him with a curious expression and asked, what about you? Are you going? Jin-Woo shot back with another question. And what if I do go? Jo-hee's response was firm. Then I'm coming too. Her determined look made it clear. She wouldn't take no for an answer. Jin-Woo knew that look all too well. Jo-hee could be super stubborn when she made up her mind. He figured as long as he stuck with her, everything would be okay. After all, he had taken down Dong-suk's squad of 5 C-rank hunters by himself. With a nod, Jin-Woo felt a bit more confident. Taesik Kang, a member of the surveillance team, stood in front of the hunters. Don't worry about the prisoners, he said with a wave of his hand. I've got my eye on them. He called out to the prisoners, who slowly made their way over to him. As they approached, they held out their hands, waiting for what came next. Taesik was in charge now, and he was ready to take control. Taesik quickly unlocked the handcuffs like he had done it a million times before. That was super uncomfortable, one of the freed prisoners complained. Another one added, we're not slaves. How could they treat us like that? The 2 former prisoners rubbed their sore wrists, still grumbling about their ordeal. Taesik didn't pay much attention to them, and instead turned to the hunters. Who's going to show us the way? He asked. Chil, who usually took charge, hesitantly raised his hand. Taesik gave him a nod. Chu led the way, stepping through the gate first. One by one the others followed him. Shall we go? Jin-Woo asked, and he walked in with Ju-hee by his side. She carefully gripped his sleeve, still a little shaken from what had happened last time. As they entered the dungeon, they knew what to expect. The place was crawling with goblins, the weakest of all the humanoid magic beasts. Jin-Woo was exploring a pretty low-level dungeon, but that didn't mean it was boring. Suddenly, creepy little creatures started making weird noises. Keek, keek, keek. Jin-Woo had dealt with these guys before, and even without special powers, he knew how to handle them. He fought cautiously, not wanting to take any chances. His friends Chul and Ju-hee watched in amazement, as Jin-Woo took down the creatures with ease. Wow. One of them breathed. Jin-Woo was holding back, not using his full combat power, but he was still way better than they expected. Ju-hee walked up to him, looking impressed. Have you been working out? Someone asked Jin-Woo. He hesitated before answering. I've been running every day. The person raised an eyebrow, clearly unsure if she believed him. At least he wasn't making it up. But there was a bigger problem. No matter how many goblins Jin-Woo defeated, his experience points weren't increasing. A frustrating message kept popping up. Experience will not increase because the enemy's level is too low. It happened again and again. Skreek. Experience will not increase because the enemy's level is too low. Kusakok. Experience will not increase because the enemy's level is too low. Jin-Woo glanced around, feeling frustrated and unsure of what to do next. The C-rank prisoners were super excited to be free, even if it was just for a little while. They were using their weapons to attack the small beasts, and it was total chaos. The creatures were screaming and screeching. Keek. Skreek. Eek. It was hard to tell who was who, humans or beasts. One guy watched all this and thought, I don't need to try that hard. He realized he wouldn't get much experience or money from fighting like this. Then he had another idea. If things were always going to be this crazy, maybe it was better to just leave the association. After all, most of their jobs involved attacking D or E rank gates, which didn't seem worth it. Jin-Woo didn't see the point of joining D or E rank raids if he couldn't level up. But now, with some cash coming in, he could finally pay his mom's hospital bills without worrying. He even had the freedom to leave the association whenever he wanted. Having money was a big deal. It gave Jin-Woo choices. As he thought about all this, the rest of the party moved deeper into the dungeon. Suddenly they stopped in front of 3 paths. Huh? Someone said. Taesik turned to Chil and said. Huh? Now they had to decide which way to go. Taesik spoke up, sharing his idea with Chil. Let's split up here, someone suggested. This dungeon isn't as tough as we thought. Chul nodded in agreement. Sounds good to me. Jin-Woo closed his eyes, focusing on his other senses. He was trying to figure out where the boss was hiding. Getting past the boss would be a great way for him to gain some experience. As he concentrated, Jin-Woo started to feel the life force of every living thing in the dungeon. It was like a map was forming in his mind. He opened his eyes and turned to Chul. Let's go left, Mr. Song said. Sure, Jin-Woo replied. The group split up. Jin-Woo, Chul and Jo-hee went left. Taesik and the prisoners went right, and 2 other hunters took the middle path. Jin-Woo's heart was pounding with excitement. He knew the boss was waiting at the end of the tunnel. It wasn't super strong, but it had a weird energy that was different from the other goblins they'd met. Jin-Woo wanted to get to the boss fast, but goblins kept popping out everywhere. They screeched and shrieked as they appeared. Keek, keek, cheek. This time, about 10 of them jumped out at once. These guys were trying to look tough, but they weren't doing a great job. One had a wooden club, another wielded a wooden sword, and the third guy was holding a long stick with a sharp stone attached to the end. They tried to arm themselves, but honestly they didn't seem very scary at all. Jin-Woo scrunched up his face in frustration. Didn't these attackers ever get tired of picking on them? Goblins were a real nuisance. They always attacked in big groups, but they weren't very tough. There are 10 of them. Someone exclaimed. What should we do? Should we go back and get the others? But Chul and Jo-hee didn't think that was necessary. They're just goblins. Chul said, let's try to take them down ourselves first. Jo-hee nodded in agreement. Flames began to dance on Chul's fingertips, and Jo-hee got ready to use her healing magic. Jo-hee got ready to use her healing magic. Jo-hee rubbed the back of his head, thinking out loud. It was weird, but he didn't feel scared at all. Even though they were deep inside a dungeon, he wondered if it was because he had gotten a lot stronger lately. Chul was starting to notice something weird. Everything felt different. He turned to Jin-Woo and asked, Sung, are you ready? Jin-Woo replied, yes sir. Jin-Woo kept up with his teammates, taking down goblins one by one. They were all focused on exploring the dungeon, when suddenly they heard a loud piercing shriek. It came out of nowhere. Anaraug, someone yelled. Someone yelled. Anaraug, someone yelled. Anaraug, someone yelled. Another voice screamed. But here's the thing. It wasn't the goblins making all that noise. It was unmistakable. Those were human screams. Jin-Woo, Chul, and Jo-hee locked eyes with each other. The air was silent for a moment, but then the terrifying wailing started again. Ugh. Chul's face turned stern. Let's go. The three friends took off toward the noise. Jin-Woo could have sprinted ahead, but he held back to make sure his friends were safe. Time seemed to blur as they ran. How long had they been pounding the ground? Suddenly Jo-hee pointed and shouted. She had spotted someone. Over there. Taesuk Kang from the surveillance team yelled out, his voice weak. He was kneeling on the ground, covered in blood. Be careful, he warned. Those guys might still be around here somewhere. Taesuk's words came out in a rush, and then he groaned in pain, sinking down to the ground. Ugh, he muttered. Jo-hee saw her friend struggling and knew she had to act fast. She couldn't just stand there and do nothing. I'll heal you, Jo-hee exclaimed, rushing to Taesuk's side. As a B-rank healer, she was confident in her ability to help him, even with enemies lurking nearby. She quickly stretched out her arms and dim lights began to glow from her hands. But just as she was about to heal Taesuk, he suddenly sprang up and reached for her neck. His hand crackling with magic. Someone grabbed his wrist just in time, stopping him from touching Jo-hee. Jo-hee was startled and jerked back, landing on the ground with a thud. Taesuk looked surprised, wondering who had blocked his attack. He thought to himself, who could have stopped me at this distance? As a high-rank hunter, Taesuk knew he could easily overpower lower-ranking hunters. But Jo-hee was different. She was a B-rank hunter just like him. Luckily for him, she was a non-combat healer, which meant she didn't fight. Still, Taesuk couldn't help but feel curious about who had just saved her from his attack.